Right. So from the Lord Kitchener, we are going to go to a Barbadian story, a story by Austin Clarke, right? It's called Leaving This Island Place, and it will be told by our host, Mrs. Narissa Bernard. Yay, Narissa. Okay, Narissa, the floor is all yours. You go ahead when you're ready.
Leaving this island place. The faces at the grilled windows of the parish almshouse were looking out, on this hot Saturday afternoon, on a world of grey flannel and cricket and cream shirts, a different world, as they had looked every afternoon from the long imprisonment of the wards. Something in those faces told me they were all going to die in the almshouse. Standing on the cricket field, I searched for the face of my father. I knew he would never live to see the sun of day again. It is not cricket. It is leaving the island that makes me think about my father. I am leaving the island. And as I walk across the green playing field and into the driveway of the almshouse, its walkway speckled with spots of tar and white pebbles, and walk right up to the white, spotless front of the building, I know it is too late now to think of saving him. It is too late to become involved with this dying man. In the open veranda, I could see the men, looking half alive and half dead, lying on the smudged canvas cots that were once white and cream as the cricketers' clothes, airing themselves. They have played, perhaps, in too many muddy tournaments and now soiled. But I am leaving. But I know before I leave, there is some powerful thug which pulls me into this almshouse, grabbing me and almost swallowing me to make me enter these doors and slap me flat on the sore-back canvas cut beside a man in dying health. But I am leaving. You wasn't coming to visit this poor man, this poor father of yours? It is Miss Brewster, the head nurse. She knew my father and she knew me. And she knew that I played cricket every Saturday on the field across the world from the almshouse. She is old and haggard, and she looks as if she has looked once too often on the face of death. And now she herself resembles a half-dead, dried-out flying fish wrapped in the greaseproof paper of her nurse's uniform. That man having fits and convulsions by the hour, every day he asking for you, all the time, day in and day out, and you is such a poor, great, high school educated bastard that you now acting too proud to come in here because it's an almshouse and not a private ward to see your own father, and you didn't even have the presence of mind to bring along an orange, not even one, or a banana for that man, your father. She was now leading me through a long, dark hallway, through rows of men on their sides and some on their backs, lying like soldiers on a battlefield. They all looked at me as if I was dying. I tried to avoid their eyes, and I looked instead at their bones and the long fingernails and toenails, the thermometers of their long idle illness. The matted hair and the smell of men overdue for the bedpan, men too weary now to raise themselves to pass water, even in a lonely gutter. They were dying slowly and surely, for the almshouse was crowded and it did not allow its patients to die too quickly. I passed them, miles out of my mind, the rotting clothes and sores, men of all colors, all ages, dressed like women in long blue sailcloth hard shirts that dropped right down to the scales on their toothpick legs. One face smiled at me, and I wondered whether the smile meant welcome. Wait here. It was Miss Brewster again who had spoken. She opened the door of a room and pushed me inside as you would push a small boy into the headmaster's office for a caning. And straight away, the smell of stale urine and of sweat and feces whipped me in the face. When the door closed behind me, I was alone with the dead, with the smells of the almshouse. I am frightened, but I am leaving. I find myself thinking about the trimmed sandwiches and the whiskey and sodas waiting for me at the farewell party in honor of my leaving. Something inside me is saying I should pay some respect in my thoughts for this man, this dying man. I opened my eyes and thought of Cynthia. I thought of her beautiful face beside my father's face. And I tried to hold her face in the hands of my mind, and I squeezed it close to me and kept myself alive with the living outside world of cricket and chairs and tea in the pavilion. There is death in this room, and I am inside it. And Cynthia's voice is saying to me, run, 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 back through the smells, through the fallen lines of the men, through the front door, and out into the green sunlight of the afternoon, and the cricket, and the shouts, out into the applause. That's you lying down there, your father, the voice said. It was Miss Brewster. She too must have felt the power of death in the room, for she spoke in a whisper. This is my father, more real than the occasional boundary hit by the cricket bat and the chairs that came with the boundary alone. The two large eyeballs in this sunset of this room are my father. Boy, it was the skeleton talking. I am leaving. He held out a hand to touch me. Dirt was under his fingernails like black moons. I saw the hand, a dead hand, a dirty hand, a hand of quarter moons of dirt under the claws of its nails. You want to know something, son? My godmother told me long ago. I'll tell you something. That man your mother tell you to call your father, he isn't your father in truth. Your mother put the blame of your birth on him because once upon a time, long, long ago, in this island, that man was a man. I do not touch the hand. I am leaving this place. And then the words, distant and meaningless from the departure of love because they came too late, began to turn the room on a side. Words and words and words. He must have talked this way each time he heard a door open or shut, or a footstep. It's a good thing you going away, son. A good thing. I hear you going away, and that is a good thing, because I am going away from this place. Miss Brewster, but I am sorry, cannot go with you. Did my mother hate this man so much to drive him here? Did she drive him to such a stick of love that it broke his heart and made him do foolish things with his young life on the village green of cricket near his house, that made him the playful enemy of Barabbas the policeman, whose delight, my godmother told me, was to drag my father, the captain of the village team, away, drunk from victory and pleasure, to throw him into the crowded jail, to make him slip on the cold floor, fast as a new cricket pitch with vomit. And it was then my child, after all those times in the jail, that your father contract that sickness, which nobody in this village do call by name. It is so horrible a sickness. And I remember now that even before this time, I was told by my mother that my father's name was not to be mentioned in her house, which her husband made for me as my stepfather. And she kept her word for 18 years. For 18 years, his name was never mentioned. So he had died before this present visit. And there was not even a spasm of a reminiscence of his name. He was dead before this. But sometimes I would risk the lash of her hand and visit him in this small shack on the fridge of Rudder's pasture, where he lived out the riotous 24 years of middle life. Your mother never loved that bastard, my godmother said. But I loved him, in a way. I loved him when he was rich enough to give me 2 shillings for a visit, for each visit. And although my mother had said he had come from no family at all, had no background, yet to me, in those laughing days, he held his family circle of compassion in his heart. I see him now, lying somewhere on a cot, and I know I am leaving this island. In those days of cricket, when I visited him in his house. The pin-up girls of the screen, white and naked, and the photographs of black women he had taken with a box camera. Because your father is some kind of genius, but in this island, we call him a blasted madman. But he may be a real genius. Black women always dressed in their Sunday best after church, dressed in too much clothes. And above them all, above all those pin-ups and photographs, the photographs of me, caught running in a record time, torn from the island's newspapers. And there was one of me he had framed when I passed my examinations at Harrison College. And once, because in those days he was my best admirer, I gave him a silver cup which I had won for winning a race in a speed which no boy had done in 25 years at the same school, in the history of the school. Some in real life, looking at me and whispering under their breath so I might barely hear it. That's his son. And some looking at me as if I had entered their bedroom of love at the wrong moment of hectic ecstasy. And he, like a child caught stealing, would hang his father's head in shame and apologize for them in a whisper, and would beg the woman in a loud voice, "You don't see I'm with my son? You can't behave yourself in his presence." And once, standing in his house alone, when he went to buy a sugar cake for me, I was looking at the photograph of a naked woman on the wall, and my eyes became full of mists. And I saw coming out of the rainwater of vision my mother's face, and her neck, and her shoulders, and her breasts, and her navel. And I shut my eyes tight, and ran into him returning with the sugar cake, and ran screaming from this house. That was my last visit. This is my first visit after that. And I am leaving this island place. After that last visit, I gave myself headaches, wondering if my mother had gone to his shack before she found herself big and heavy with the burden of me in her womb. Child, you have no idea what he do to that poor pretty girl, your mother, that she hates his guts even to this day. and the days at Harrison College when the absence of his surname on my report card would remind me in the eyes of my classmates that I might be the best cricketer and the best runner, but that I was, after all, among this cream of best blood and brains, only a pass. This island is only a place, one place, his voice was saying. The only saving thing is to escape. He was a pile of very old rags thrown around a stunted tree. Then he was talking again, in a new way. Son, don't leave before you get somebody to say a prayer for me. Somebody like Sister Christopher from the Nazarene Church. But Sister Christopher is dead. Dead and gone 5 years now. When she was shouting at the Lord one night at a revival, my godmother said, she's dead. Dead. 5 years. But couldn't you still ask her to come? Ask Sister Christopher to come? There is no point listening to a dying man talk. I am going to leave. No point telling him that Sister Christopher is alive, because he is beyond that, beyond praying for, since he's going to die and he never was a Catholic. And I am going to leave. For I cannot forget the grey flannel and the cream of the cricket field just because he is dying, and the sharp smell of the massage, and the cheers of the men and women at the tape, which I have now made a part of my life, and the Saturday afternoon matinees with the wealthy middle-class girls from Queen's College, wealthy in looks and wealthy in books, with their boyfriends, the growing up leaders of the island. Forget all that, and forget the starched white shirt and the blue and gold Harrison College tie? Forget all this because a man is dying and because he tells you he is going to die? Perhaps I should forget them. They form part of the accident of my life, a life which, if there were any logic in life, ought to have been spent in the gutters around the Bath corner, or in some foreign white woman's rose garden, or fielding tennis balls in the Garrison Savannah Tennis Club, where those who played tennis could be bad at tennis players, but had to be white. Let him die. I am leaving this island, please. And let him die with his claim on my life, and let the claim be nailed in that coffin, which the poor authorities for the poor will authorize out of plain deal board, without a minister or a prayer. And forget Sister Christopher, who prefers to testify and shout on God, and call somebody else, perhaps more in keeping with the grey flannel and the cream of the cricket field, and the Saturday afternoon walks in the park, and the matinees at the Empire Theatre. Call a canon. Call a canon to bury a pauper. Call a canon to bury a pauper. Throughout the laughter and the farewell speeches and the drinks that afternoon, all I did hear was the slamming of many heavy oak doors of the rectory when I went to ask the canon to bury the pauper. And I tried to prevent the slamming from telling me what it was telling me, that I was out of place here, that I belonged with the beginning at the almshouse. Each giggle, each toast, each rattle of drunken ice cubes in the whirling glass pointed a finger back to the almshouse. Man, you not drinking? A wealthy girl said. Man, what's wrong with you at all? And someone else was saying, Have any of you remember Freddie? But Briggs said, remember that bitch? The fella with the girl with the biggest boobies in the whole Caribbean? And who used to, man, Marcus, Marcus, I calling you. God blummer. Marcus, we come here to drink rum, and you mean to tell me that you selling we water instead of rum? And Joan Wharton said, but wait, look this lucky bastard though, saying he going up in Canada to university. Boy, you real lucky in truth. I hear though that up there they possess some real inferior low-class rum that they just mix with water. Yak, yak, yak. From now on, you'll be drinking Canadian rum water. So stop playing the ass and drink this Bajan rum, man. We paying for this, you know. I was leaving. I was thinking of tomorrow, and I was climbing the BOAC gangplank on the plane bound for Canada, for hope, for school, for glory. And the sea and the distance had already eased the pain of conscience. And there was already much sea between me and the cause of conscience. And when the party was over, Cynthia was with me on the sands of Gravesend Beach. And the beach was full of moonlight and love. There was laughter too, and the laughter of crabs scrambling among the dead leaves and skeletons of other crabs caught unawares by someone running into the sea. And there was a tourist ship in the outer harbor. Write, 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 write me every day of the week, every week of the year, and tell me what Canada is like. And think of me always, and don't forget to say nice things in your letters. And pray for me every night. And write poems, love poems, like the ones you write in the college magazine. And when you write, don't send the letters to the rectory, because Father would, well, send them to Auntie's address. You understand? You know how ministers and canons behave and things. I have to tell Father, I have to tell him I love you, and that we are getting married when you graduate. And I shall tell him about us when you leave tomorrow. Watching the sea and the moonlight on the sea, and watching to see if the sea was laughing, and the scarecrows of masts on the fishing boats now lifeless and ghostless, taking a breather from the depths and the depths of fishing, and the large, incongruous luxury liner drunk full of tourists. And all the time, Cynthia, chatting and chattering. But we should have got married, even secretly, and eloped somewhere, even to Trinidad or even to Tobago. Father would have known and would have liked it, but we would have been married. Oh hell, man, this island stifles me, and I wish I was leaving with you. Sometimes I feel like a crab in a crab hole with a pile of sand in front. Remember how we used to build sandcastles on bank holidays? And on Sundays, far, far up the beach when nobody came. Cynthia, darling, my old man is dying right now. You're too philosophical. Anyhow, where? Are you kidding? I didn't even know you had an old man. And she laughs. I was at the almshouse this afternoon before the party. Is he really in the almshouse? St. Michael's almshouse. You must be joking. You must be joking. She turned her back to me and her face to the sea. You aren't pulling my leg, eh? She said. And before I could tell her more about my father, who he was, how kind a man he was, she was walking from me, and we were in her father's Jaguar and speeding away from the beach. And it is the next day, mid-morning, and I am sitting in the Sewell Airport terminal, waiting to be called to board the plane. I am leaving. My father, is he dead yet? A newspaper is lying on a bench without a man or woman. Something advises me to look in the obituary column and see if, but my mother had said as she packed my valises, making sure that the fried fish was in my briefcase, which Cynthia had bought for me as a going away present. My mother had said, look, boy, leave the dead to live with the blasted dead. Leave the dead in this damn island, please. And I am thinking now of Cynthia, who promised. I promise, I promise, I promise. Man, you think I go and let you leave this place, leave Barbados, and I not going to be there in the airport? To come to wave goodbye, to take a photograph, waving goodbye from the terminal and the plane, to get her photograph taken for the social column, waving goodbye at the airport, to kiss, to say goodbye, and promise return in English, and say au revoir in French, because she was the best student in French at Queen's College. A man looks at the newspaper and takes it up and gives it to a man loaded down as a new traveler for a souvenir of the island. And the friend wraps two large bottles of Goddard's gold braid rum in it, smuggling the rum and the newspaper out of the island, in memory of the island. And I know I will never find out how he died. Now there are only the fear and the tears and the handshakes of other peoples saying goodbye and weeping of departure. Come back real soon again, man, a fat, sweating man says. And next time, I go and take you to some places that go and make your head curl. Man, I intend to show you the whole island and give you some dolphin steaks that is more bigger than the ones we eat down in Nelson Street with the hoes last night. An old woman who was crying was saying goodbye to a younger woman who could have been her daughter or her daughter-in-law or her niece. Don't take too long to return back, child. Don't tarry too long. Come back again soon. And don't forget that you was born right here, upon this rock, upon this island. This is a good, decent island. So return back as soon as you get your learning. Come back again soon. Child, the plane is ready now. And Cynthia is not coming through the car park in her father's Jaguar. She has not come. She has not come as she promised. And I am leaving the island. Below me on the ground are the ants of people, standing at an angle near the terminal. And I can see the architect models of houses and buildings and the beautiful quilt work patches of land under the plow. And then there is the sea, and the sea, and then the sea.
That's it, Debbie.
Thank you very much, Narissa. Leaving This Island Place, you know,
Yes,
by
yes.
Austin Clarke. So we gone from England down to BIM, Barbados, for those that don't know who BIM is, what BIM is, right? And the story was about loss. We all know somebody who has had to leave their island home, whether they wanted to or not, right? And in this particular story, we had a young man who left his dying father back in Barbados, right, to go to school in Canada. But the thing about leaving home is that everywhere you go, you take home with you. When they say a navel string, I say navel, When you say maple string berry in a place, it means that you will always return home. So that's something to think about. So we go in from